Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lisa and this is Growing on Vancouver Island. Today I'm going to take you on a tour of our front rock garden. It's the beginning of May right now, and I would say May through the beginning of July is the most exciting time in our rock garden. So I'm super excited to show you what is going on right now. And this little man will be joining us from above today. He is going to supervise the tour from here and make sure we're not missing any plants. So here we are on the sidewalk of our front yard, looking into our rock garden from the perimeter. We have this narrow strip of bark mulch where all these plants were just planted early spring or late last fall after we removed a bunch of zebra grass from this area. So they're all just starting to come out of dormancy, and a lot of them were cuttings or even roots from other gardens and other places. So we have quite a collection here, and they're all starting to show their little colors. Let's take a look here. This was just a little root of creeping phlox from another part of my garden that I planted, which is blooming well. And here we have some soapwort, which is just starting to grow. This is a transplanted Dusty Miller where I had these little cuttings and a little bit of root from my parents' garden that I stuck in, and I thought it died, but clearly you can tell there is some new growth, and I planted that late last winter, I want to say. So this is zone 7 to 8. Clearly we had a very cold winter and it survived, so that's awesome. It's supposed to be an annual in our area, but it's starting to perennialize in some places. Here is autumn Joy Sedum. We have many of these, maybe even 100 in our yard. And these little tiny little sprouts, this is a piece of lilac root. I believe it's white colored, the flowers that I planted at the same time as the Dusty Millers, and it is starting to sprout. Literally just a piece of root, so that's pretty exciting. Here is a blueberry bush. This was rescued from somebody else's yard a few years ago. It was established, and really it has produced berries but hasn't done very well. So this past winter / early spring, I gave it a very hard pruning. I transplanted it from the backyard to the front yard and gave it a ton of fertilizer, and I think this might be the first year it's gonna flourish because it's probably got more flowers now than it's ever had since I have owned it, and it's getting lots of new growth. Even from the bottom, I took off a lot of old, very old canes, so hopefully it gets some fresh new canes this year and is loving its new location. Here is a more healthy looking blueberry bush from the backyard. It just never produced great in the backyard for some reason, as even though a lot of my other blueberry bushes produce very well back there, but I thought giving it a new location might give it some more vigor. It's got nice new foliage on it. And here is some variety of ground cover sedum. I'm not sure what variety this is. And to the right, more Dusty Miller transplants that are just starting to show life with an autumn Joy Sedum. Here we have a piece of rose root. I literally stuck a piece of rose root from my parents' garden into this little bed, and this is what's grown. It's gonna be a bush. That's pretty amazing. There was no stem, just root. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think it's gonna be a pink rose. More Dusty Miller with a tiny bit of new foliage at the bottom. And another autumn Joy Sedum. At the back, some more creeping phlox. Another blueberry bush. In the back here, in the rock garden, you can see a wallflower that has got some nice flowers on it. I have 2 or 3 of these in my garden, and our neighborhood rabbits seem to think they're the best snack around. Most of the time, we don't get many flowers because they munch off all of the new blossoms that form. So it's nice to see that we have a few blossoms. Just starting to rain now, but that's all right. That's normal for this area. A few little hens and chicks. Coming down this way. This is a hibiscus that is just starting to put some buds on. And a little ground cover sedum. This is a Pyrus bush that's been transplanted too many times, cut back from quite a large size, and is hopefully now in its forever home in this location, right beside a pink creeping phlox. And this beautiful tree is a weeping Japanese maple. Definitely one of the most show-stopping pieces in the front yard. And in front of it, we have some white creeping phlox that is in full bloom. Definitely putting on a good show right here. And as we swing this way, we are entering the land of pansies and soapwort. All of the beautiful white that you're seeing is a ground cover called soapwort. And intermixed, we are now in the land of pansies. There are pansies everywhere in this area. And let me tell you, these pansies extend all the way down this strip here. It's an endless little rock area full of pansies. There are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of pansies in here. This is the most I've ever had, and I didn't plant any this year. Originally, when I put this garden in about 5 years ago, I planted 1 6-pack of pansies from a nursery starter pack and 2 or 3 little packages of pansy seeds. And then the year later, I planted maybe 1 more, and that's it. Every year, I get more and more and more. So here's more views from the front. These 2 evergreen bushes here. These are some beautiful pinkarotos that have not yet bloomed. You will probably see them blooming in the next tour. And we'll just go across here. Take another look at our pansy city here. And let's take a close look at the soapwort. That's a pretty gorgeous ground cover too, and it really spreads everywhere. And in the area we have landed in here, these are evergreen ground covers. They are a rock rose variety that is the ground cover. I've got quite a few of them in this area. They all have different colors. Some are red, yellow, orange. And we have a couple of blooms that have just started. That is so exciting. These get the most vibrant, colorful blooms. So I'm super excited. The plants have like doubled in size since last year. They've only been in the ground maybe a year, I want to say now. So I'm so excited that they're so big and they're starting to bloom now. Look at that. And in front of here we have a ground cover. It's not even a ground cover. It's like a ground cover rose. What do they call it? It's a brand new rose I planted last year. And oh, I'm going to insert the name of it later, I think, because you need to know the name of this rose. It is so cool. It's kind of rainbow colored, like orange, yellow, and red, kind of all in the same plant. And it grows kind of like a ground cover rose, but closer to the ground than your traditional ground cover rose. And let's look at this corner here. Here we have a little corner of succulents with hens and chicks and different ground cover sedums. And here we have a rose. This is a rose, I believe it's called Morden Sunset. I've only had it for about a year, but it gets sort of peachy orange flowers in shades of the sunset, so it's quite nice. And we have more creeping phlox and some pansies, and these gold colored grasses are called prairie firegrass. In general, there are hundreds or thousands of flower seeds that I've planted over the last 4 to 5 years that come back every single year. So let's go to the bottom of my little pathway. So this is the view from the bottom of my gravel pathway. Lots of color happening. To the right, this is a Spariba bush. It gets some puffy pink flowers in the next month or so. It'll be full of them. To the left here, these white and pink beautiful flowers are creeping phlox. Beside it, we've got a vibrant version, a vibrant pink creeping phlox. And in between these two are a gray sward. I love the electric blue flowers. And here's a view of all of these colors together. Just gorgeous, all this vibrant color in the corner. We do have some store-bought pansies, the only ones I planted this year, so that's why there's some of that other color in here, because these colors, they don't seem to reseed in my yard pretty much ever. And these little plants are perennial asters that bloom in the fall, putting on some nice foliage. And these wispy grasses in the middle are blue fuscae. They're extremely drought tolerant. So we'll continue up the top of our gravel pathway. This is a Evergreen purus bush, putting on nice pinky red new growth foliage. Those are not flowers, that is just foliage. It will bloom soon, and it gets these cascading white blooms that will just be very pretty and very fragrant. Coming this way, here we have another Spariba with lots of fresh new growth. And we've got little pansies, I'll show you. All the way down our little pathway is a whole bunch of pansies growing on the pathway pretty much everywhere. White landscape rose, the little pansy growing in front of it. Gets the purest white flowers, very pretty. And here we have a Unimus bush. This was planted from little cuttings that were rooted from my parents' garden this year. And it is just loving its life, putting on lots of new growth here. And here are a couple rose cuttings just starting to come to life. This is my little Hebe that I've planted in a recent video. I'm not sure, I might have put it on the tiniest bit of new growth at the top, but I think it's just establishing itself here. Here are two more rose cuttings, and these ones are really loving their lives in this location. Another view of our wallflower. And here is the main part of my rose garden in this area. I planted a whole bunch of rose bushes here last summer. And then there's also a couple others. I'll see if I can put the names on the screen later, maybe. And my saxifrage, oh my goodness, it is so gorgeous. It's still blooming. This thing has been blooming for almost 3 months. I've got 2 of them here, and they are like showstoppers. They just don't stop performing. Pretty amazing. All of these orange flowers, these are just standard phlox. They come back every year in my garden. I'm not sure if they're perennial. I think they're annuals. But sometimes the foliage does overwinter, so I'm not really sure, but they're very fragrant. If only you could smell the smells, you would be quite happy with the lovely smells that are going on in this area. And this is a golden spariba, quite different than my green ones, and the foliage is just so beautiful. We've got like orange, red, and now lime green kind of all at the same time. Very, very pretty and striking in the garden, especially with that orange phlox beside it. And here's a view of the Japanese maple with the rhodos again. Coming this way, we have a nice clump of creeping phlox cascading over the pathway. And we've got another unimis bush planted at the same time as my previous one that I showed you just this spring. And a poppy is starting to bloom. I think this might be a new poppy to me. Every year I try to add different varieties. I have a ton of California poppies. I have Icelandic poppies. I have all kinds, but I think this might be a new one. And I can't even remember what I added this year, but it doesn't look familiar, so that's kind of exciting. And we've got all kinds of flowers popping up that are not blooming yet, so you'll see those in upcoming videos. Here we have another white landscape rose and a red wallflower. As you can see, it's not looking beautiful, and that's because the rabbits keep eating all of the gorgeous foliage it produces. And another unimis bush. Some more beautiful foliage on flowers coming through. And this beautiful ground cover is a freesia. It's blooming a record length of time this year. It has never bloomed this long. It's been blooming probably 2 months at least. I think it's because we've had the coldest and wettest spring we've ever had in this area, and it seems to really like these cooler conditions, so it just keeps on going. And here we have a little, this is a rock rose shrub. I'm just trying to put it upright. It keeps falling over. I might actually transplant this guy because I'm not sure this is the best spot. I've had him for less than a year. I mean, he's happy enough. He's got foliage on him, but new growth. I think I can maybe find a better spot for him. So he might be moving pretty soon, but stay tuned to see where he ends up. Over here, we have a little rose bush. This was a cutting, I'm pretty sure that was rooted in already, that I planted just this early spring / last fall, and it's doing very well here. And over here is another collection of lilac roots. So this whole area is going to be a white lilac, and up here, this little thing I believe is the red dahlias that I planted in a recent video. It was my first time truly planting the tubers of dahlias, or I think they're called tubers. I had a disaster with some plants, dahlia, a few years ago, like a dahlia plant, but these guys are growing well, so that is giving me hope that I will get some flowers this year. So let's take another look from the bottom up. There's kind of an overview of all of the color we've got going on. It's quite colorful, and let me tell you, this is literally just the beginning of this great flower show. In another month, this is going to look completely different and have probably double, if not triple, the color that you see now with all those new flowers that are coming into bloom pretty soon. So stay tuned for one of the best flower shows you will ever see in the Pacific Northwest. Maybe. I think it's going to be spectacular. So, and let's take a quick look at the supervisor doing his job. He's been watching the whole tour from above and making sure everyone in the neighborhood is behaving themselves. He's a very good supervisor. So here's a final look at the garden from above on our second story deck. So that's going to be all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Have a lovely day.